Welcome to Law Crest, where we break down US laws and explain your rights in simple terms. Today's topic is about one of the most common and important legal relationships in America, the one between a landlord and a tenant. Renting a house or apartment in the USA seems simple at first. You pay rent, the owner gives you a place to live. But under US law, both sides, the landlord and the tenant, have serious rights and responsibilities. That must be understood clearly before signing a lease, whether you're moving into your first apartment or leasing out your property. There are legal points you should never ignore, because a misunderstanding can quickly turn into a dispute, eviction, or lawsuit. Let's start with the lease agreement, the foundation of every rental relationship. A lease is a legally binding contract that outlines rent amount, payment date, duration of stay, maintenance rules, pet policies, and much more. US law requires that both parties read and sign the lease voluntarily, with full understanding of its terms. Tenants should never rely on verbal promises. Everything must be written down. If the landlord says, "I'll fix the roof soon," or "you can have pets," make sure it's written in the lease. Similarly, landlords must specify what's included in rent, utilities, parking, or maintenance to avoid confusion later. The next major principle is habitability. Under the implied warranty of habitability, every landlord in the United States has a legal duty to provide a home that is safe, livable, and up to building and health codes. This means the rental property must have working plumbing, electricity, heating, a safe structure, clean water, secure locks, and be free from major infestations or hazards like mold or lead paint. If a landlord fails to maintain these conditions, tenants have legal rights. They can request repairs in writing, contact local housing authorities, or in severe cases, even withhold rent or move out without penalty if the property is deemed unsafe. Tenants also have legal duties. The tenant's responsibility is to pay rent on time, keep the property reasonably clean, avoid causing damage, and follow lease rules. US law protects landlords from deliberate property damage or misuse, and tenants can face eviction or financial penalties if they break these terms. However, landlords cannot retaliate by suddenly raising rent or cutting off services because a tenant complained about conditions that is called retaliatory eviction, and it's illegal in all 50 states. Another key area is the security deposit, one of the most disputed issues in landlord-tenant law. A security deposit is money paid up front, usually equal to 1 month's rent, meant to cover potential damage or unpaid rent. Most states limit how much a landlord can collect and require that it be kept in a separate account. When tenants move out, landlords must return the deposit, minus deductions for actual damages, within a legally defined period, often 14 to 30 days. Tenants have the right to an itemized list explaining any deductions. If a landlord unfairly keeps the deposit, tenants can take the matter to small claims court. Now let's discuss entry and privacy rights. Tenants have a right to privacy and peaceful enjoyment of their home. A landlord cannot enter the property without notice unless there's an emergency like a fire or gas leak. Most states require 24 to 48 hours written notice before a landlord enters to inspect, make repairs, or show the property to future tenants. Unauthorized entry is a violation of privacy laws and can lead to penalties. Rent increases and lease renewals are another sensitive area. In the US, landlords may raise rent after a lease ends, but during an active lease term, they can only increase rent if the lease explicitly allows it. In rent-controlled areas such as parts of California, New York, and New Jersey, state and city laws cap how much landlords can increase rent each year. Tenants should always check whether they live in a rent-controlled zone, because these laws can dramatically affect affordability and long-term stability. One of the most serious issues tenants face is eviction. Landlords can simply throw out a tenant or change locks. That's called an illegal eviction, and it's a crime in many states. Instead, landlords must follow formal legal procedures. They must give proper written notice, usually 3 to 30 days depending on the reason, and then file an eviction lawsuit, often called unlawful detainer, in court. Tenants have the right to appear before a judge, present evidence, and defend their case, for instance, showing that rent was paid or the eviction was retaliatory. Only a sheriff or court officer can legally remove a tenant after a court order. On the other hand, tenants who fail to pay rent or seriously violate lease terms, like causing major damage or conducting illegal activity, can lose their legal protection and face court-ordered eviction. The key lesson is that eviction is a legal process, not a personal one, and both sides must go through the court system. When it comes to repairs and maintenance, communication is crucial. Tenants should immediately report needed repairs in writing, email, or certified letter to create a record. Landlords must respond promptly to health and safety issues. Some states allow repair and deduct, meaning tenants can pay for urgent repairs themselves and subtract the cost from rent. But this must be done carefully under state law to avoid disputes. Insurance is another area often overlooked. Landlords usually insure the building itself, but not the tenant's personal belongings. Tenants should buy renter's insurance, which is inexpensive and covers losses from theft, fire, or damage. It can also cover liability if someone is injured inside the rental property. Let's also talk about discrimination, a serious and strictly enforced area of U.S. housing law. Under the Federal Fair Housing Act, landlords cannot refuse to rent or treat tenants differently because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or family status. Many states add protections for sexual orientation, gender identity, and source of income. Discrimination occurs, such as refusing to rent to families with children or asking different rent prices based on ethnicity. Tenants can file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD or state agencies. For foreign tenants or immigrants, understanding documentation is essential. Landlords can verify identity and creditworthiness, but they cannot discriminate based on citizenship status. A valid visa, social security number, or employment proof is typically sufficient. Tenants should keep copies of all signed documents, receipts, and communication. This protects both sides from future misunderstandings. Inspections and move-out procedures are also regulated. When moving in, both parties should complete a move-in checklist, noting the condition of each room, with photos as proof. At move-out, another inspection determines any damages beyond normal wear and tear. This helps fairly decide if deductions from the security deposit are justified. Another important concept is quiet enjoyment, a legal term that gives tenants the right to live peacefully without unnecessary disturbance from the landlord or neighbors. If a landlord constantly disrupts or harasses tenants, the tenant can file a complaint or even terminate the lease early for breach of contract. Local housing codes and state-specific laws also shape landlord-tenant rights. For instance, in California, landlords must provide functioning smoke detectors, while Texas requires specific notice periods for evictions. New York mandates written receipts for rent paid in cash. Tenants and landlords should check their state's landlord-tenant law guide, often available on official government websites. If disputes arise, both sides can use mediation before going to court. Many cities have housing mediation programs where neutral professionals help resolve disagreements over rent, repairs, or deposits without costly litigation. If court becomes necessary, both landlord and tenant should bring documentation, lease, receipts, emails, and photos to prove their claims. Lastly, always remember that renting a home in the USA is not just a financial arrangement. It's a legal relationship governed by contract and law. Landlords must provide a safe, lawful dwelling and respect privacy. Tenants must pay rent, care for the property, and follow rules. Both sides benefit when they communicate clearly, document everything, and understand their rights under state and federal law. If you're a landlord, ensure your lease complies with your state's laws and keep good records. If you're a tenant, read every clause before signing, keep copies of receipts, and never ignore written notices. Knowing the law prevents confusion and protects you from scams, illegal evictions, and financial loss. So whether you're renting your first apartment or managing several properties, always stay informed and act within the law, because knowledge of your rights and responsibilities is your strongest protection. This is Law Crest, helping you understand the law that protects your home, your rights, and your peace of mind.